Hi, I'm Lou Scharf, and I'd like to tell you about a wildlife experience my wife and I recently enjoyed while in Costa Rica. There are over 500,000 species of plants and animals in the small country of Costa Rica, which represents about 4% of the total number of species around the world. Our trip was nothing more than a small sampling of the plants and animals present in that amazing little country. This video is not a travelogue, but rather a compilation of just a small number of the species we saw in our brief visit. Most of the plants and animals that we saw are in some state of decline, and a number of them are threatened. Some of them are actually endangered, meaning that they are at risk of becoming extinct. The purpose of this video, then, is a call to action to enjoy, appreciate, and participate in the protection of wildlife, not only in Costa Rica, but around the world. I hope you enjoy coming along with us for this brief visit. There are 800 miles of coastline in Costa Rica between the Pacific and Caribbean coasts. Costa Rica hosts more than 5% of the world's biodiversity, even though its landmass only takes up about 0.03% of the planet's surface. Our tour began in San Juan and took us from the Caribbean side to the Pacific side, with stops in the mountains, rainforests, highlands, and finally the salt marshes of the Pacific. From the time of our arrival, we were absolutely struck by the sight of so many familiar houseplants growing in natural settings and often in amazing abundance. There are over 1,000 species of orchids and many types of bromeliads, Heliconia, and other tropical flowers in that country. The flowers of Costa Rica provide an excellent habitat and nutrition for many varieties of birds, butterflies, bees, and other insects. Some of the botanicals of the country are being studied as potential new sources of drugs and food and nutrition additives. Although reports of poinsettias being native to Costa Rica have not been confirmed, we were just amazed by the abundance and the size of these plants. Here we are starting up our climb into the rainforest area. "54 species of hummingbirds are reported to be present in Costa Rica. We saw 8 species including Jacobins, Plumelatiers, Rufous-tailed, and other varieties. We are indebted to our guide, George Lynn, who made his flash system available, which allowed us to photograph a number of the hummingbirds in flight. The coppery-headed emerald is one of the hummingbirds endemic to Costa Rica. That means that this species is found only in the southern half of Central America and nowhere else in the world. The long-billed hermit is one of the larger hummingbirds in Costa Rica, but some are smaller than a bug. Here we are pushing further into the mountainous regions of the country. We were fascinated by the dense tropical plant growth observed everywhere, which is so important in supporting and sustaining wildlife. 10% of the known butterfly species in the world reside in Costa Rica, where there are about 1,250 species. We observe species found in the U.S., such as fritillaries, swallowtails, hairstreaks, and crescents, but also a number of species native to Costa Rica. Costa Rica eco-lodges and parks have excellent resources to identify and learn about many wildlife species. Here my wife is learning about the wing structure of some of the native Costa Rican butterflies. Here we are driving further into the mountainous and rainforest area where we found a number of the native brightly colored birds such as tanagers, orioles, honeycreepers, and parrots. Honeycreepers are found in the forest canopy of Costa Rica, and as the name implies, they are specialist nectar feeders with long, curved bills. The males are typically glossy purple-blue, but the females have more of a greenish coloration. The plumage of tanagers do not glow in the dark, but when the sun hits some of the species, it sure looks like they could. The local name for the golden hooded tanager is Seticolorus, or 7 colors. Contrary to the name of the green honeycreeper, the male is actually turquoise in color, while it is only the female that is green. The Passerini's tanagers are among the most striking tanagers of Costa Rica. The male has a bright scarlet lower back and rump, and is otherwise velvety black. The female is overall gray and orange-brown, with a light orange-green band across the breast. Both males and females have a light blue bill with a black tip, which is unusual and most interesting. Today, there are around 200 species of mammals present in Costa Rica. Before man hunted them to extinction, there were many more mammal species. All large and many small mammal populations are subject to extreme hunting pressure or habitat destruction. Some of the animals in the national parks, however, are beginning to recover. The capuchin monkey is the smartest and most inquisitive of Central American monkeys. If they look familiar to you, you've probably seen them dancing at the end of a tether at street fairs in Europe or South America. And also they're the little guys favored by organ grinders worldwide. Capuchin monkeys are found in groups comprising 10 to 40 individuals. These groups are led by both alpha male and alpha females, and our guide indicated this particular monkey was an alpha male. The Coati is an animal in the raccoon family. It is comfortable and agile in the treetops as well as on the ground. It uses strong claws to access different levels of the forest. It is amazingly acrobatic, and it can climb down trees head first, pass from tree to tree on small branches high off the ground, and even walk upside down hanging from tree limbs, which we noted. There is one animal in Costa Rica that is rarely seen. The jaguar is here, but their numbers have been devastated. Firstly, because poachers hunt their staple food, which is the wild boar, and secondly, because starved of boar, the jaguars go for cattle, which provokes farmers to shoot them. Ask anyone to compile a list of the world's strangest creatures, and the sloth would be right up there with the duck-billed platypus. This creature spends up to 18 hours daily sleeping, curled up with its feet drawn close together and the head tucked between the forelimbs. Northern ghost bats are solitary and notoriously difficult to find. We were very fortunate to find several roosting in palm fronds. Costa Rica is home to 17 species of parrots and parakeets, although their numbers are decreasing due to habitat destruction and capture for commercial trade. The magnificent Scarlet Macaw is the largest parrot in the world, but unfortunately its numbers are declining. The primary threats to the Scarlet Macaw are habitat loss from rainforest destruction and heavy exploitation for pet trading. In Costa Rica, these birds, which are frequently stolen from their nests, can be sold on the black market for about $200. In the United States, baby birds are smuggled into the country and can be sold for as much as $4,000. These birds were observed in a conservation area where they are protected.
Okay.
Take a video with
With extremely powerful beaks, the Scarlet Macaw can easily crush nuts and seeds to eat. It also uses its beak as a climbing aid and to crunch on branches. Here is my budding ornithologist who turned out to be the subject of the macaw's attention. As you can see, she was really enjoying it. The yellow-naped parrot has recently been uplisted to vulnerable in terms of conservation status due to exploitation and habitat loss. Toucans are some of the strangest and most exotic looking birds in Costa Rica. They have huge, colorful bills, look like flying bananas when taking into the air, and make sort of odd croaking and yelping sounds, which you can hear in the background. Collared aracaris are very social toucans, which commonly live in groups of about 5 to 15 birds. The birds communicate with each other by making a variety of sounds, including clicks, rattles, purrs, and squeaks. They will also sometimes use their bills to pound on the entrance to their nest, which makes a sound similar to a woodpecker's drumming. The LaPaz Waterfalls are located on the slopes of a volcano in the Central Highlands. This area is rich in biodiversity thanks to an altitude of what varies between 4,000 and 5,000 feet, allowing for both cloud forest and rainforest to coexist. We had an absolutely magical experience at this location. Costa Rica hosts approximately 133 species of frogs and toads, which are placed into 8 different families. As you know, these animals are largely nocturnal, so we spent many hours at night with our flashlights trying to find these elusive animals. The green basilisk lizard is also called a double-crested basilisk, but its amazing ability to run on water gives this species its most recognizable local name, the Jesus Christ lizard. They can sprint upright about 5 feet per second across the surface of water. The timing of our visit was just right to see an adult spectacled caiman with several of its hatchlings. No doubt many of you would prefer not to see these snake pictures. Keep in mind, however, that without snakes, we could be overrun by pests. Snakes are a key component in the balance of nature, and their presence or removal from an area directly impacts the health of an ecosystem. Raptors are birds of prey, such as eagles, hawks, falcons, and owls. This Crested Caracara is also a rather unusual example of a raptor, given its size, its color, and its patterns. The spectacle owl is one of the raptors targeted for observation on our visit. It's a very large tropical owl, and thanks to our guides, we were able to find one of these birds after quite a lengthy hike into the forest. We were fascinated with the face of this owl, with its contrasting spectacles made up of white eyebrows and other white streaking between the eyes and the cheeks. We were also just fascinated with the face of the Ferruginous Pygmy Owl, a tiny owl which is only about the size of a bluebird. To fool its prey, this little owl evolved so-called false eyes, which are patches of dark feathers on the back of its head that actually look like eyes, along with a little patch of cream-colored feathers that looks like a beak. So one could really get the impression that this little owl has two faces. I spent several hours photographing this little owl in order to capture both front and back faces, which I hope you enjoy seeing. For some years, I've been in search for the snail kite to add to my life list of birds. We finally found this bird in Costa Rica. In the state of Florida, the bird is endangered. It has very interesting feeding specialization, and it feeds almost entirely on apple snails, which is shown in the next photo. As you can note, the kite has a very specialized hooked bill for prying out the snail from its shell. Vultures are also raptors, and we were fortunate to be able to photograph a king vulture along with several black vultures. Though brightly colored, the king vulture's head and neck are actually bald. This may help the fastidious bird to stay clean and ensure that bacteria-laden animal remains don't fester in the bird's plumage where they could spread disease. Walking bridges offered us a great way to see the forests and streams in all of their splendor. We saw many additional birds which are considered to be among the more beautiful birds of Costa Rica. Birds like motmots, barbets, and trogons. Costa Rica also has a number of woodpeckers with about 16 species native to that country. That is pretty amazing in a country that is about the size of West Virginia. The chestnut-colored woodpecker is one of the fanciest of the woodpeckers in Central America and has a characteristic hammerhead crest. In driving the back roads of Costa Rica, one can come across many interesting sights, and this is one of them. Given the fact that Costa Rica is bounded by oceans and soaks up significant rainfall annually, there is an abundance of waterfowl and shorebirds in the country, particularly in the coastal areas. The salt marsh area of the Pacific coast offered us many opportunities to view a number of species of waders and shorebirds. Another species we targeted for observation in Costa Rica is the Jabiru, which is one of the largest storks in the world. With a wingspan of almost 10 feet, that makes the bird only second to the Andean condor in terms of wingspan. Again, the timing for our visit was just right, and that we were able to observe a Jabiru nest with 3 chicks. These nests can be 3 feet wide and up to 6 feet deep. Costa Rica is also home to several unusual herons. The bare-throated tiger heron gets its name from the fine herringbone pattern of its plumage. With its massive broad scoop-like bill and very big eyes, the bolt-billed heron is the funniest-looking creature of all Costa Rican herons. Its oversized eyes are an adaptation to hunting at dawn and at night. Among the ducks observed were the black-bellied whistling ducks. It was interesting to note the call of these ducks because they really do have a whistle for their call. The gray-cowled wood rails are quite striking in appearance, with olive brown above and rusty and black below, with a gray head and neck, a stocky yellow bill, and these incredible reddish legs and feet. I hope the photos of the subsequent birds will give you an appreciation for the remarkable variation in color, pattern, size, behavior, and call of these additional species. Because the Thicket Antpitta is most often heard rather than seen, our guide took us to a rather remote area to hear, but finally see this secretive bird. As we were nearing the end of our visit, we enjoyed relaxing by the pool of one of our eco-lodges, as well as enjoying a meal in its open-air restaurant. Given that Costa Rica is a tropical country, it is home to creatures that have more legs than we do. There are more than 4,000 species of insects in the country, and I'm sure you'll be happy to hear that I'm not going to discuss all of them. But here are a few of the more interesting ones we saw. Leafcutter ants eat fungus. They tuck the bits of leaves into their tunnels and wait for the fungus to grow. Then they harvest and eat it. Most of the ants in a colony are workers, but they often have different jobs depending on their body size. The giant metallic Seba borer beetle is one of the largest beetles in the world, which reaches a length of up to 3.5 to 4 inches. I hope you've enjoyed being with us as we've traveled through a good part of Costa Rica. I would also ask you to consider helping to support the remarkable wildlife treasure that we all enjoy on this globe. You can do that in many different ways: joining your local Audubon Society, participating in bird counts, participating in citizen science, or just even making your donations to wildlife and conservation groups that are present in many parts of the world. Thank you so much for your time, and here's to enjoying wildlife for many years to come. Thank you.